Hey everybody, how you doing? So this video is going to be about drawing a symmetrical form, similar to a wine bottle, a bottle of liquor here, or anything that is symmetrical on both sides. It could be I'm looking across my kitchen and I see a soap bottle, same size or same kind of form. So to go about this, it's very similar to the other approaches, except there's a couple bit more pieces of information that you're going to have to figure out on this bottle that's different than, let's say, just a basic cylinder. Let's put that over there for a second. Okay, so the first thing you have to do is you have to measure the height versus width, or width versus height, depending on short into long. So quick assessment, which one's the short side, the width or the height? Width. So what you're going to do is I'm going to again measure in here. That's your width, and then you're going to count how many widths. 1, 2, 3. It's a 1 to 3 ratio. That's me measuring here. I'm going to have to measure in real life on this side. So let me just do this real quick. 1, 2, 3. So it's like 2 3/4. It's not fully 1 to 3 ratio. And when I measured in there, it wasn't really 1 3 ratio, but it was maybe 1 to 2 3/4. And I'm just rounding off in my head. So it's just 1 to 3, but it's shorter than 3. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to give myself the width that I want. So that's the width that I want to use. And I'm going to have to times this by 3 and a little bit shorter. So I'm just going to use something that's a ruler or something that's straight. Actually, I can use the pencil. So if you just use the pencil, put the tip of the pencil on one end, put your finger on the other end, and I'll show you a quick trick here. Take that, put your finger where the line is, lean the pencil up, mark it. I don't know, hopefully you can see that mark. Go up to the mark you made, mark it again. Go up to the mark you made, mark it again. That's 3 times the length. Remember, we're going to go a quarter smaller. So in order to do that, I divide this in half. Double check it's equivalent on both sides. It is, because I'm going to have to divide this in half later on, so I might as well do a good job now. And then I'm going to have to divide it in half again. I'm not too concerned about checking it on both sides because it's around a quarter. So then I'm going to bring the quarter up here, but I'm going to subtract a quarter instead of add like I've done before. Helps if I have another tool to do that with. So I'm just going to use my eraser pencil as my subtracting tool, and then I subtract. So my subtraction is about right here. I have my height, and I already have my width established because that's what I started off with. Now, when you guys draw this or get into the next project, which is the contour line drawing, you are going to use your rulers. You are going to make sure the lines are vertical and horizontal, and you're going to measure the distance, and it's going to be very technical and mechanical. For now, we are just going through the process so you understand how to do this. So I'm not going to take that time to do that now. I'll do that later on. So you're at this point now. You have the overall dimensions of that, height versus width, and then this form lives inside of this here. So the next question you want to ask yourself, what's unique about this object? What's a major turning point, literally? And I would say like right here is where the width starts to turn in, right here. So if I were to mark the bottle, there's a little shape here, it'd be about like right here, right where my pencil is. But what I'd have to do is kind of see where the liquid is, a little bit above the liquid. So what you would do is you would measure, actually, you'd measure the width. Sorry, I'm trying to do this. You'd measure the width, and then you would count the width into how many times it takes to get to that part, which looks like 2. And I'll explain that in a second. So I'm just going to measure that here and see if that works. 1, 2. It's a little less than 2. It's not exactly 2, but that's great. That's all the information I need. So all I do is I go 2 up, which I already have marked, but I'll do it again. 1, 2. So this is the 2 mark, right? I said it's a little bit below the 2 mark. What we're gonna do is just put a little bit below. That's good enough for me. I'm gonna run a line across. Got me? Okay. Second thing I'm gonna do, because this is a symmetrical form, anything that's symmetrical, you divide in half down the middle. Because it's even on both sides, why struggle and try to draw one side and then try to make the other side equivalent to it? Why not give yourself a nice blueprint to go ahead and do that? It makes things so much easier, so much faster. It might feel like it takes longer because of the process, but you do it once and you do it right once. So this is the center point here. I'm going to find the center point here, double check. Draw a line straight down. And again, I'm freehanding this, so it's not going to be perfect. The other important aspect of this bottle is where the neck starts to come out. How deep is the neck in from the exterior, from here? Because this is basically what we have, right? We have this kind of rectangle that's around it. How deep is this in? We can figure that out in a second. And we also want to know how far down the neck is. So you could do one of 2 things. First, it doesn't matter. I think I'm going to do I think I'll get the width of this guy. So what I'm going to do is measure the width. Sorry. It's hard to do in reverse. Measure the width, and then you want to count how many times that width, 1, 2, 3, counts into the width of the form. So I'm going to do that. Measure the width. 1, 2, 3. It basically measures 3 times evenly all the way across. When you guys measure and you want to be in the same spot, you want this to be in the same spot. If you're closer, you're going to get a different measurement. If you're further away, you're going to get a different measurement. And if you're constantly moving, this is never going to be consistent. So always remain in the same spot. So I said it was about 1/3 of the way in. So what I'm going to do is, I'll use this line because I have too many marks down here. This is half. I'm going to say maybe that's 1/3. So I'm going to see if this counts in 3 times. 1, 2, 3 times perfectly. This is my width from here to here. All I have to do is take this and put it here. So if you can kind of see that I'm in the center of the line there, I'm going to mark it here, and I'm going to try to make it equivalent on the other side. Here and here. Can you see that? I'm trying to keep the distance between here and here from the center out equal on both sides. But I'm not sure if it's the width that I wanted. I have to check it. So I'm going to take the width that I put here and then compare it to this width. It's perfect. It's exactly what I want it to be. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line straight down. Okay, that's the neck. It doesn't go down this far. It's going to angle down a little bit more later on. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to measure the neck itself. So I'm going to measure the highest point, always the highest point, which is the very back part of the ellipse, to where the neck starts to come out. And then I'm going to compare that to the width, because it seems to be that I'm comparing everything to the width here, which is fine. That's my point of reference. That's my building block. So again, I'm leaning back where I was before. It counted 1.5 times. So I'm going to use this top part here. This is half. I'd say if I put a mark right here, that seems to be 1.5 times. So if I take this distance and I start to go here, it divides my pencil in half where this line is. So that would be 1.5 times. This distance that I just found here is here. So if you see where my finger is, that's my marker. I'm going to put my left finger there now. I'm going to mark it. That's telling me, which something doesn't look right because I'm going to double check this. That if I ran this across, that's where that would be. I'm going to double check that though. Possibly this line's lower because the distance between here and here seems to be kind of small and it's not working out, especially if I'm doing a live video. So I'm going to double check this because something's not right. One 3/4. Yeah, I'm right. So this line that was once here, I'm moving down to here. Feels a little better. So I'm going to take it out of here and I moved it down to here. Now, this is where it gets really simple. I've done all of my work to figure out where things are. If you look at this little point here and this little point here, I'm going to connect this point here down to here. Does that make sense? I'm going to take this point down to here. If you notice, everything is a straight line construction. I call it straight line construction. Do not start to put curves in. You can put rounds in after the fact. This is just like the perspective drawing. You start with geometry first. You figure out the structure, the form, the measuring, all that stuff. Because with straight lines, you can measure almost exactly where things change direction and things of that nature. And then after the fact, you can put the curvilinear parts in. So in this case, if I wanted to put a curvilinear part here, all I have to do is just add a little bulbous part to it, like right here. Which is pretty simple because I can do that on the other side and it's quite easy and it's going to be the same distance. Everything's figured out. So I don't have to worry too much about it. I just try to mimic the same kind of distance between here and here. And then it fades back in here. The other thing I can do soften the transition between the neck and the bottle itself. So again, because we're doing the same approach as you would with perspective in terms of making rounds from geometry, it works its way out. Now there's two things left. One is the bottom. See if you get back to see. One is the bottom part here, and then there's an ellipse that's down here, right? You just don't want to throw the ellipse in, and there's an ellipse right here. I don't know if you can see that ellipse there because the camera's on a certain angle where the top of this isn't really shown. I can see it, but from my viewpoint, there is an ellipse here. So the ellipse back here, I can't really see, but I can see the water right here. And that creates an ellipse as well and I can measure that, I can see through it. So I'm gonna use it as a guide. I'll put that in first, and then I'll put the one below in because I know the one below is gonna be bigger. So try to figure this out logically. You just take one step, one step, one step, you break down the form. Eventually you're gonna get to the form and what it should be. So the water line is about right here. And that's something you can just kind of look at and be like, all right, it's not far from here. The bottom of it is about right here. I'm going to measure the height of the ellipse. It's the water line right inside of there. 1, 2, 3. It measures 3 times across plus a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is break this down into thirds. 1, 2, 3. Nope. 1, 2, 3 plus a little bit more. That's about accurate. So this distance from here to the edge, which is here, is the height of that ellipse. So I'm going to take it, put it here. And since I designated this as the bottom of the ellipse, all I have to do is add it to the top. So I'm going to run a line right through here. And if you remember what we did last time on the cylindrical form, to make it a perfect ellipse, you already have this divided down the center. Now we have to divide this down the center, east, west. Okay, after that, you're going to make an arc, another arc here, baby arcs, and then you connect them. The nice thing about an ellipse midway through a bottle like this is it starts to create volume. Now in that perspective project you did, cross contours creates volume, and otherwise this will just be one big flat shape and it would look flat. So it's nice to have an ellipse here. It'll be nice to have an ellipse here, and then I'm going to put another ellipse here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this ellipse down here bigger than the one up top. You can't really see, there's a thickness of the bottle, it's obscured. I'm not too concerned about that. I just want to draw an ellipse at the bottom, just like I have here. That's all I'm concerned with. I want to show the volume of the form. Not concerned about the distortion of the glass. So I'm going to take this measurement, which is that high. I'm going to pull it down here. I'm going to mark it. So I marked it right there. And then I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. I'm going to make it about, I don't know, 1/4 inch bigger or so. And I'm going to run a line across. And so you can see my first guess, which was right here, wasn't that accurate. It was accurate for that one, actually. And then I'm going to divide it in the center and just repeat the same process. Now, if you start to draw low and it's hard to get down there and work down here, you might have to pull your drawing board closer to you and put your body down here, or put something underneath this so you can stand up and work, but it will make it a little easier if you can see what I'm doing. And you'll get a little more control. Again, this is a rough in. I'm not looking for perfection here. I'm just roughing this in, just kind of showing you my process. Eventually, once you use rulers and you take your time, you can make this look really clean and tight. So then now I can just kind of blend this down. And once this hits the halfway point, it follows the line. That's all I gotta do. Take this down. Once it hits the halfway point, it follows the line. And there's a little small ellipse up here. I'm just gonna do it quick. Instead of measuring, I think it's just too small to measure for me. I just know it's tiny. And then there's an ellipse there. So because this ellipse is bigger, it looks like you're looking a little bit down. And if you want to just lighten these lines, these geometric lines, you can kind of see that it started to take the shape of the bottle and it's more relevant to what we're drawing now. These are called construction lines. I like to think of this as a blueprint or scaffolding. Sometimes I call it scaffolding. I want to see the scaffolding whenever you draw a form. You must show me the scaffolding. You do not go in there and just whip out a bottle. It's going to look really odd. The other thing, what was I going to say? Oh, if I want to be very technical, because of the cap here, there are multiple ellipses. There's an ellipse here, there's an ellipse here, there's an ellipse here. So when you're drawing this bottle in the main drawing, I do expect you to maybe get the thickness of that cap. And then you do draw the thicker ellipse. And then you're going to draw another ellipse here. And you do draw a thicker ellipse. I'm just doing this quickly so you kind of get the idea. And then it goes down. So then you have the thickness of that cap. And then there's even another ellipse right here, which is there's this little kind of like the rim of the bottle, I suppose. And then there's even an ellipse that you could put right here where you had a line. It's going to be a smaller one. It's going to be a little bigger than that one, but it's going to be like from here to here, straight across. Something along the lines of that. So now you have multiple ellipses, you have this volume, and it represents that bottle in terms of proportion. All right, I think that's it.